We're really excited to have Daniel here as a guest for a quick fireside chat. Daniel is a co-founder and CTO of Drata, which I'll let him introduce in just a second. And bear with me as we switch over the screen share. And I think Daniel is here right now, hopefully. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's see. Thanks so much for joining us. This is really exciting.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Mentioned a few times Drata as a company. Was hoping that you could give us a quick introduction to the company in your own words. You guys do a lot of different stuff and have grown and changed a lot as you've grown. So give us the latest summary.
Sure. High level, Drata helps companies automate their compliance posture really, well, not compliance posture. We help your compliance goals. And by doing that, we automate a lot of the evidence gathering and organization of that, which, eventually outputs towards the reciprocal side of a lot of these security compliance frameworks, which is you get an annual audit. And in that process, if anyone's ever gone through it, it's a lot of tedious back and forth. And, because an auditor, a human, isn't sitting next to every one of your employees throughout the year understanding what you're doing. So you eventually do have to show this evidence to the auditors. How did you operate your business against your kind of business controls, and kind of what those are, like, hey, this is how we're going to operate our company. And the question is okay, prove to me that you operated that. And so in that, imagine how would I do that if, an auditor isn't sitting behind my shoulder throughout the year. Is, a lot of times people use screenshots and tickets and emails and et cetera. And we try to automate and gather all of that from tools like AWS or GitHub or Jira or your background check providers and et cetera.
And Drata is a relatively new company too. Can you quickly tell us how long it's been around, kind of how fast you've grown? I know there's been some news sort of recently.
Yeah, it hasn't been too long. I think we're about 20 months in now. We started in the middle of 2020. We were heads down kind of in stealth mode till the end of the year. We launched in beta with a couple beta customers in late November, which was fun. We were our first customer. That's always fun. And, use our own tool to get our own SOC 2 report. And then we launched publicly in the middle of January of 2021. So we recently just hit the year mark. In that year, it was a crazy, amazing year. And not only from growth of our team and product, but of customers as well. We also secured Series A and then a Series B as of last year, and have grown to unicorn status, which is always fun as a company. So we've been growing fast, and I think that unprecedented growth rate has really helped us shape this world of security compliance automation, and showing people a better way. And not only just hitting a tool and setting and forgetting it, but really the partnership approach that we've taken with our customers to not just say, here's a tool, good luck, it'll automate everything. Is, some things, these processes are human interactive, and everyone is nuances of it, and not everyone uses AWS as an example in the same way. And so there's a lot of times, very in-depth questions, and we have a lot of expert auditors and compliance experts on staff to help our customers. And, it's kind of part of the offering in there. So we really kind of, in a way, handhold people through, but at the same time, use the software to automate it as it goes through. So we're here to help, humanistically, but have software to automate as much as possible.
That's some tremendous growth, extremely fast. And I know that, 20 months ago, there were already a few people kind of in the space building compliance tools. I mean, it's something several folks have been working on. As you looked at starting a company here and building something, how did you think about approaching, not a greenfield market where there's nothing, but where there's already some competitors, potentially well-funded?
Yeah.
How did you see entering into that kind of market, and also what the opportunity was for you to do differently?
Yeah, definitely. It was so funny. Just as any other entrepreneur, right? You get this idea, you think it's the best thing in the world, and it's like, no one's doing this. And then, as you go into the product market research, you're like, holy cow, 7 other companies are doing this. That's how it works. I did, honestly, when we came up with the idea, going through pains of our last business, and that's kind of where it came from, was doing this manually and then working. So I had a educational technology company in the past called Portfolium, and we went through that motion and we sold to universities. And like every time the CIO or something like that would be like, let me see your SOC 2 report or something along those lines. And we didn't have it early days. And so eventually we went through that motion and like did it and did the whole spreadsheet Jira ticket thing, rip engineers off the roadmap. And it was an expensive process for a younger company. We had about 40 employees. And in that process of that business, we sold and merged with Instructure, the makers of Canvas, a pretty large educational technology company. And I was so excited as like an engineer myself and the engineering leader, like, oh man, I've never actually worked with this is a big like 2,000 something person company. Like, let's go work with this amazing security team. And they are amazing. And they taught me a lot in the security side and compliance side, how they manage it all. But like they were still doing it by hand. And it was like, whoa, something is majorly wrong here. Like I was in startup mode, like with Portfolio, but at this bigger multinational company, it was really shocking to see they were still doing it, Jira ticket spreadsheets, things like that. So as that's kind of where the entrepreneurial bells, I think, started ringing again for me. And, as we dove in after merging those companies and parting ways, it was Adam, my co-founder. We loved working with each other, and hey, what were some problems that we faced? And this is what it was. And all roads kind of led to this idea. And we're like, this is unbelievable. We can help engineering and security teams. We can help the sales and go-to-market teams like get these certs faster to sell up market and grow their companies faster. And as we like go do that product tour, you start finding, oh, okay, there's a competitor here that does something similar. And oh, wow, that's maybe like really close to what we do. And so you kind of, you dive in and you understand, okay, what does this company do? Exactly, like what are their customer bases, who are they going after? Maybe let's try to talk to some of those customers through 1, 2, 3 degree separation. What do they like, what do they not like, and understand the approaches of these competitors in the space. So that's kind of what we did, and from there we took our own spin and approach. I've been a long time entrepreneur in my career, and from B2C companies to B2B companies, and always kind of took that product and design led kind of approach on the product side first, and then more so at the business, the customer obsessed kind of centric approach. So I would say that's what we did differently, is we like really put the end user at the center of our business and said, this buyer, this user, they need to trust us indefinitely. Like we're going to be holding the metadata of their security posture. Their like trust needs to be at the center of this business. And so, that is our number one, value of our culture and our company. It's trust. And so how that, gets communicated out through the marketing material to the onboarding process, to customer care, to product, to engineering. I even tell all of my engineers, like, every single keystroke you make in the code, think about how this could be broken or hacked or attacked. And, so from day one, when knowing we're going to be building a cybersecurity company, we went above and beyond what most do. So when starting a company, usually when you start a company, it's just like, go as fast as possible. Don't worry about whatever. But we did it right from the start in terms of security posture and processes, and getting a SOC 2 report before we even launched the business publicly and things like that.
I want to dive into what you said about engineering and design and the experience around that. This space around compliance is not necessarily seen as the place with the best design, or typically, seen as a beautiful products or elegant experiences built here. And yet Drata has been able to create an experience that's pretty delightful, to go through and simple and easy. How have you structured the team around that and kind of done that? I think that's something, and in this new world of B2B SaaS, a lot of companies aspire to bring sort of modern principles of design to legacy industries.
Yeah.
Talk about that.
Yeah. I think it just maybe naturally has came out of my like almost 20-year career here. And like, from building tools for like Matt, we built one of my first companies that was big was it was called Tweet Photo, and we were the ones responsible for putting media onto Twitter. So they, love me or hate me for that. But it's like it's like you build this product where millions and millions of users use it. It's like, okay, like we need to make it enjoyable, and like that, leads into the next thing and leads into the next thing. And what I realized, especially with my last company, Portfolium, was we were writing software for students, and so in that like a little younger, well, I guess older, millennials, and then into the Gen Z arena. It's like they're used to using these apps like Instagram or whatever, across the internet. And holy cow, these are like, there's this like hundreds or 1,000-person product teams on these products that look beautiful, and they use it every single day for free. And it's like, that's what they're used to now. And so anything less, like the bar has been raised so high for day-to-day usage in our interaction with technology, that I think anything less is like, doesn't matter what industry you're in, like people they want better. And so I think if you can really take those patterns, those design patterns from the, Instagrams of the world or whatever the tool is, it's like, and put them kind of into these B2B apps, people are used to it. And so like those triggers in your brain they're comfortable, like I'm probably misquoting the biology here, but like your dopamine receptors like kind of increase or whatever. And it's like, okay, this is enjoyable. And we've heard that time and time again. Like in general, security, it's like, that's the, oh man, that's the cost center in the business. Like that's the thing I don't want to touch with the 10-foot pole. You have the CISO or whoever in the corner, like figuring it out for us. And it's usually internally kind of this weird divide between the company. And especially in the SMB, where if you're the busy CXO individual, and this is the last thing on your mind, maybe this is the 200th thing you did at of the day, it's midnight. Shoot, I gotta think about our compliance or security. And so what we wanted to do was bring security and compliance kind of, I mean, they're definitely different, right? Like just because you're compliant doesn't mean you're secure. Just because you're secure doesn't mean you're compliant. But by going through this compliance process, it makes you a better ran company. It makes you a more secure company. So that intersection is really strong. And so by doing it from day one and getting these early adopters or like these SMB leaders it really helps shape, I think, the culture of their business, and really put security in the forefront, where they said, wow, Drata made security kind of fun. Wow, this is enjoyable. I've seen this time and time again now across our customer base. And this is what surprised me the most of starting this company, is that so many of our customers now, because they've used Drata, have put security as part of their core values of their business and their culture. And where before it was always this, side thing we'll do later. And so that's amazing, because for people like the actual individual of myself or you, like we're users of all these tools out there, and I don't want my data stolen. So to be able to like cultivate this culture that'll just, spread throughout the SMB space, throughout the B2B space. I mean, we have customers of all kinds of B2C into every industry and everything. So it's great to see, security, top of mind security come through these companies' culture, because the importance of that's just so relevant. I mean, holy cow, I think it was earlier this week, there was a giant state attack on some Israeli stuff. And, and a lot of times it's like, it relates to vendors, it relates to process, it relates to humans. Like sometimes we're all lazy and we forget to patch the server, or we forgot to click this one checkbox on AWS or whatever it was. And yeah, so how can we have a kind of a watchdog in a way, keep always checking you on that business process that you're running?
I certainly hope not only will that world of clunky old IT software go away. I think that's what you were talking about earlier. Like we're thankfully transitioning out of that. I think no one likes that. We're getting into better tools, but also every company having a stronger security posture and just taking it, from early days more seriously. Certainly what the world needs.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask more about your growth also. So obviously the product experience leads to people sharing it through word of mouth. And I know you had a lot of like earlier stage companies when you just got started, those design partners.
Yeah.
What has led to your large explosion of growth? Like what really has driven it? Kind of looking back, was there one specific thing you did, or kind of if you were talking to maybe another founder or entrepreneur hoping to have such growth, what would you recommend?
I think at the core of it is it maybe sounds a little cheesy or cliche, but it's really our culture of our business, and that culture of which centers around trust and like a competitive fire and some other items that we all not only we interview for, but that we live and breathe every day. I think that's what helps our acceleration and growth at every level, and putting that center, the customer at the center. So with that, it multiplies out of customers are happy, they're leaving reviews, they're telling their peers, they're telling their former employees. We've actually seen it time and time again. Maybe someone that was the champion or a user of Drata leaves their company and goes to a different company, and they're like, my first action is to bring Drata into this company. And so now multiply that over 20 months that we've been around. It's definitely been a great kicker. I mean, obviously, hats off to the sales team and the marketing teams. Like, they're doing a phenomenal job, which is amazing. And obviously the engineering, the R&D org to support all that. But so those are, factors. And, I wouldn't really say it's one thing we did. I think it's, it's funny. I've told this to a lot of my peers. I've been building companies in San Diego for almost 20 years now, and I'm involved in the community out here. And, so I know a lot of people in the community, and entrepreneurship community, and they're like, wow, it's like, it's very positive, and hey, congratulations, you're doing all this amazing stuff, and that's great. And some of them ask me like, hey, what did you do differently or whatnot? And sometimes in my head, I'm like, I didn't do anything differently. Like, we always wrote amazing code, we always wrote amazing product, we always put customers first. We have a killer marketing and sales team. But I think, a little bit to credit myself and my other peers, it's like, well, yeah, but we've also been like doing this now for 20 years. So the mistakes we made 20 years ago, 5 years ago, like, it adds up. And you definitely have that saying, as you try to make yourself 1% better every single day. I mean, do that over a 15 plus year career. I think just naturally now I don't make those mistakes. And so I think a lot of that is like, and I think that's a lot of paths of a lot of entrepreneurs is, yeah, maybe your first one, you got lucky or you didn't, and you learn lessons. And where you see people find real success is like, maybe 15, 20 years into their career. So I would say it's like that. It's just like a combination of 15, 20 years of being in the grind and seeing every single thing you could see from a B2C company to B2B company, and it cultivated into this perfect storm of right market, in general, cybersecurity, right industry, right market for compliance automation, timing of the market. I mean, sadly, the global pandemic is horrible, but from a business side, it has moved a lot of people to work at home, therefore heightening the IT teams around the world to take security a little bit more serious, as I can't control it now in my office. And so I think a lot of that, like everything, kind of culminated into a perfect storm for us to see this type of growth.
Well, it seems like it's all continuing too. Those trends are not going away.
No.
Let's talk a little bit more about compliance. So SOC 2, I think a lot of people are familiar with SOC 2, SOC 2. People hear about it all the time. There's obviously other types of compliance and other ways that people approach this. Can you talk about how you see that industry, what Drata does, and kind of how you see the industry outside of maybe just getting that SOC 2, certificate?
Yeah, the SOC 2 cert is a great validation that you're running a well-oiled machine. There's definitely different levels. For those who don't know, there's like 5 trust service criteria. The security one's the only required one. So you can kind of go deeper and show that you do more stuff, maybe around privacy or the processing integrity, like you are doing what you say you're doing, even at the code level. So those are great things to do. But I think it's like, once you have that report in hand, it's more of it's like a trust thing. Again, it kind of keeps coming back to trust. It's as I talk to my upstream vendors or whatnot, is that it's not so much that I have this cert or this report. It's that it's like, oh, wow, these guys care about me. Like, these care about my users. And so I'm going to trust them. It's just like, it's just building that trust from the start. So I think there's that, and that's an important thing. And it's definitely spidered. And, roll back maybe 10 years ago, you hear it all the time. Oh, I have an RFP from Bank of America and I don't have the SOC 2 report, and I don't even know where to start. And so those bigger financial institutions, that's definitely where it got started, right? I mean, it is the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Professional Accountants. So it's all around accountancy and finance and stuff. But, it kind of has, there's a sector now in the SOC 2 report now versus the SOC 1 are more around compliance, security. And with the rise of SaaS and with the rise of clouds, it's like, how do I, before I used to have servers in my office or I have a colo and I control everything. We don't control anything. We're talking on Zoom here. I'm using Google or Slack to communicate where, my servers are in AWS, my code's in GitHub, etc. I don't own any of, I can't physically control it, but I can still deploy practices in my business to ensure it's a secure thing. So I think the SOC 2 report in general, even it's an American standard, is a great methodology to show that. The ISO 27001 cert is kind of that international like sister to that. It's very popular in European markets, I mean around the world as well. I've noticed even around the world though, people are accepting either, because I think the SOC 2 American kind of standard has become almost an industry standard. And those are great certs to go after, maybe where to start. I would say on one side, SOC 2 is a little bit more gray and it's a little bit more open to interpretation. Therefore, if that's your first thing to start with, and you use a tool like Drata, it kind of gets you into the shape, because you can kind of shape your company to how you want to do it and show, hey, I'm different than maybe someone else. It's not cookie cutter. And it lets me kind of not break my processes too much, mold them a little, and then move forward. Where ISO 27001 is a little bit more rigorous. It's kind of, they have this like Annex A, and it's like very, you got to do this, you got to do this, you got to do this, and that's good. But I think what I've seen is it's better to start with SOC 2, and if you want to go more international markets and those international maybe partners are challenging you for an ISO cert, not a SOC 2 report, then okay, maybe move there. Recently, we've actually launched some privacy offerings around the GDPR space. CCPA is coming out soon, so everyone around the corner, which is great in the California world. But those, and then HIPAA launched a little later. It was I think in December at the time. I'm remembering that right. So the difference between the HIPAA laws, like around the Health Privacy Act, and GDPR and CCPA and those laws, I think that's the big difference, is that those are like laws and they're just compliances that you need to adhere to, not get a certificate, like an industry certification. So I think we're like SOC 2 and ISO go, it's like, okay, I want to go achieve this. And so I work up and I eventually do an assessment or whatever, and I get this certificate or report. Where HIPAA, if you're, even a startup from day one, like, and you're holding PHI, the personal health information, and you're a bioscience company, or you're helping some hospital build some SaaS tool or whatever, like you need to be HIPAA compliant from day one. And so that kills companies. Like if you're this young company, you're trying to build all this amazing stuff, and now I got to go shift gears and make sure we're HIPAA compliant, and how do I do that? So to make sure that you do that from day one, because it's not this cert you get, you need to be that from day one. It's I think tools like Drata and the way we help you automate it all and put you on your way there to really ever proving compliance in case you ever get tested down from the authorities or your clients. It just makes that world so much easier. So yeah, the law aspects around HIPAA and GDPR, I find those actually like super open greenfields for us as we move forward. We've been really focusing on like the industry certs like SOC 2 and ISO, but I think these privacy and health laws are really a new opportunity for us. Is how do we get from from the youngest health startups to some of the biggest names out there.
Daniel, I have one last question for you before we wrap up. We're almost running out of time. You've been building startups and thinking about this for a couple decades now. Almost. Sorry, not to age you or both of us. With this company, I'm curious, like, what has been new that you have learned as you've been building this one in particular? And then also kind of looking back, what advice would you give the next generation of founders and entrepreneurs, maybe someone starting off at the first company that they're building?
Yeah. On the tech side, obviously that's my realm. there is always a sense of like, go, go, go. We don't have enough time to build the product or whatever. Just make sure you're doing the fundamentals correctly from the start. Like the way you're setting up your security and the way you're deploying your infrastructure. There's so much amazing software out there, from Terraform to others, and making sure that those security passes are just done from the start. And that's great. I mean, hopefully, we're here for you, and we can get you on the way to SOC 2 or something to start. But more important is that you just take into consideration security and on at the application level, infrastructure level to start. I think that'll pay dividends in the long run. On the business side, what I would say to young entrepreneurs is really not only understand your market and whatnot, but what's the buyer journey? I think that's so critical, and really understanding who the customer is, who the buyer is, and how do they eventually become a customer, and then how's that handoff from the sales customer perspective into customer success, and tracking that along the way. I mean, using tools like HubSpot or whatever are a little easier and cheaper than like a Salesforce, which maybe more bigger enterprises use. So I would say, like, get those like funnels and pipelines done right, and be extremely analytical on your data. And, I think it's some customer or some companies in the earliest, like, we're just trying to close a deal, and you lose, then you fast forward 6 months or a year, and you lost all of that insight you got along the way in that funnel, and what worked here, what didn't, and why. And so as you bring in new people that weren't there in the beginning, they could always go back and see. One other tool I would recommend, and this has been a huge help for us, it does cost money, so you have to make sure you can pay for it, but we've been using a tool called Gong, Gong. It's like, it records your calls, and there's a couple others out there, but it's been like instrumental. We've had it from day one, and from training new people that come on and re-listening to how things happen in sales calls and whatnot. So like something like that records every single customer call or prospect call, that'd be a huge thing. Sorry, so that was like to a younger audience. To what I've learned about this company, what I've done differently, or what I've learned this time, I would say growing this fast is a little painful. Make sure you have time to not sleep, I guess. I think as of even, I forget the timeline, 5-6 months ago, I was like running HR, I was CTO, I was engineer, obviously founder, and helping where I could there. But so making sure that you start thinking like for these major positions and major department heads, I would probably try to hire, if not 6 months ahead of it, like 3 months ahead of it, and get it, because by the time it's too late, it's already too late, and then you have to bring someone on, and by the time they're ramped up, it is a 3 to 6 month process. And so hire a little sooner. I think I wish we hired ahead of people a little sooner than we have. We actually have someone starting soon, which I'm super excited about, but that's been good. And I think it honestly just keeps going down to culture. That's where we learned a lot at my last company with Adam, my co-founder, and others, and not only understanding what the culture is of your company and how it works in the correspondence to your customers, but then how do you cultivate that throughout your company? How do you hire for that? How do you put the ownership of the culture on the employees, not the leadership? And that to me is what's paid dividends at the last business and this business. So even in those hard times where you're up at 2 a.m. on a Saturday just doing HR stuff, it's like you have this end in sight of this is where people can help me in this area, or this is where we're going. And I think just the culture of all of our employees now, from young to old, or from the earlier spots, people that started this week, man, it's infectious. It's fun.
I 100% agree with that. I feel like startups are all about hiring culture, just growth and hiring culture. With that, we can wrap up. Daniel, thanks so much for joining us. This has been really fun. Really, really excited to continue to see the growth of Drata. And I don't know, next time we chat, maybe it'll be a multi-billion-dollar company at the current rate.
Let's do it. And for everyone listening, WorkOS is a great tool. We're customers as well.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot. We'll let you get back to running Drata. Thanks everyone for showing up and attending. This has been great. Take care. See you next time.